Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into a situation that, well, it really highlights how complicated things can get with housing, race, stuff like that. And then you throw in something called the Maryland Historic Tax Credit.
Hmm.
Phew. You sent us these legal documents, and they're about this person, Stephanie Thomas.
Yeah, her experience is, well, fascinating is a good word for it.
Yeah, fascinating and kind of, I don't know, on the surface, it seems like everyone was trying to do the right thing,
Right.
but things still went wrong.
They did. They really did.
So, okay, where do we even start?
Well, with the Station East Development Project, right? This is back in Baltimore.
Genesis development, okay.
40 homes. And the thing is, most of the buyers were African American.
Right.
And that's where this whole Maryland Historic Tax Credit thing comes in. MHTC, they call it.
Okay, hold on, back up for a sec. What is that?
It's a tax credit, obviously.
Right, but like, what does it do?
So basically, it's supposed to encourage people to renovate old houses, historic properties,
Yep.
give them some pretty big financial benefits if they do.
Ah, I see.
And a lot of the Station East buyers, they qualified for it. 38 out of the 40 homes, actually.
Wow, so almost everyone. So
Yeah.
they buy these houses, they're getting this tax credit. Sounds pretty sweet. But then in the documents, there's this agreement. All the homeowners had to sign it.
Ah, yes. This is where things get interesting.
Yeah, I bet. So what was in the agreement?
Basically, it said that any money the homeowners got from this tax credit, they had to give it to the developers, to the
Yeah.
people who built Station East.
Wait, really? That
It-
seems kind of shady.
It does seem a little unusual, yeah. But it's actually pretty common, especially with these kinds of programs.
Okay, but still, if I'm getting this tax credit, why am I handing it over?
Right, and that's a really good question, and that's where Stephanie Thomas comes in.
Yeah.
Because, see, she filed this complaint, right, with HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay.
And basically, she felt like this whole tax credit agreement, it was being used unfairly against her compared to the other homeowners.
She got sued, right, to hand over the money. Yeah, just like some of the others, but she felt like it was different for her.
Because she was black.
That's what she felt, like they were singling her out, treating her differently because of her race.
And that's what HUD was investigating.
Yeah,
They wanted to figure out if that was true.
exactly. They wanted to know, was Stephanie being treated differently, or was this just how the program worked for everyone? So they started interviewing other homeowners in Station East, both black and white. And it turns out she wasn't the only one. Other people had held on to the money too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it wasn't just like one group or anything. Black homeowners, white homeowners, it was all over the place.
Huh. So what happened to those other homeowners?
Well, that's the thing. It varied. The investigation found some people, they managed to work out a deal, a reduction.
Right.
Some ended up in court, just like Stephanie. And then there were a few who actually asked for the money back.
They asked for it back.
Yeah, after they'd already given it over. It's complicated, to say the least.
Yeah, no kidding. So what did HUD say about Stephanie specifically? Did they think she was being treated differently because she was black?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's where things get really tricky.
Oh, so...
Because even though she felt strongly about it, the investigation, well, they couldn't actually prove it. They couldn't find anything that definitively said, yep, this was because of her race.
Wow. That's got to be tough, to feel like something's wrong, but nobody can prove it.
Exactly. And it really highlights a big problem with these investigations. They need proof. They need to see a pattern of behavior, like, is this happening over and over to the same types of people? And even then, it can be really hard to prove.
I can see that. It's like you can feel it, like something's off. But how do you prove a feeling?
Right. And it makes you think about those bigger issues, systemic issues, the ones that are baked into the system, like implicit bias. How do you prove that on paper, even if it's having a real impact on people?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a lot bigger than just one case, isn't it?
Exactly. But for now, let's get back to Stephanie. Because remember, there was also that whole thing with her home warranty.
Right. Oh, right. She felt like she was getting the runaround about getting some repairs done.
Exactly. Like they were ignoring her or something.
And she thought this was also because she was black.
It certainly seemed that way to her, yeah. And it's easy to see how, on top of everything else, that would just make her feel even more like she was being treated unfairly.
Absolutely. So did HUD investigate that too, the warranty stuff?
They did, yeah. They looked into the details of her warranty. It was with a company called Edgemont Builders. And from what the documents say, it looks like there was some communication back and forth about repairs.
So maybe some miscommunication
Uh-huh.
or just delays.
It seems that way. Basically, the investigation, it didn't find enough evidence to say that Stephanie's experience with the warranty was that different from other homeowners, or that it had anything to do with her race.
So on paper, it looks like everything was pretty much above board. With the tax credits, with the warranty, but then you have how Stephanie felt, you know, like something wasn't right.
And that's really what it all boils down to, isn't it? How do you reconcile those two things? How do you address those feelings, even if there's no clear evidence?
That's the big question, for
Yeah,
sure. It's like this goes way beyond just this one tax credit or a few home repairs, you know. This is about something bigger.
way bigger. This is about housing in America. And especially for Black homeowners, it hasn't been an easy road.
You're talking about redlining, all that, the racial wealth gap.
All of it. It all plays a part. It creates this environment where even if there's no intentional discrimination, there's still this lack of trust, this feeling that the system isn't really on your side.
Because of everything that's come before, you mean?
Exactly. It's like this weight of history. And it shows that if we really want fairness in housing, it takes more than just passing laws. We have to deal with these deep-rooted issues that are still causing inequality.
This whole thing, it's really got me thinking. Even programs that seem helpful, like this MHTC thing, they can still have these unintended consequences. They can actually make inequality worse.
That's why we have to keep talking about this stuff, keep paying attention, and be willing to really dig in and figure out how to fix it.
Well said.
Yeah.
So where did things end up for Stephanie? I mean, after all that. So with all that happened, where did things end up for Stephanie?
Well, it looks like they eventually dropped the lawsuit against her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was able to stay in her home.
Well, that's good, at least.
Yeah, but I imagine this whole thing, I mean, it definitely took its toll, you know?
Yeah, I bet.
Even if, legally speaking, things worked out, you have to think about the impact.
What do you mean?
Just the feeling of being treated unfairly, of not being heard, that can really stick with the person.
That's true.
It makes you think about what justice really means. It's not always just about what happens in court, is it?
No, not at all. It's about feeling respected, feeling like you're being taken seriously.
Exactly. And I think Stephanie's story, even if they couldn't prove everything in court, it still matters. It shines a light on these more subtle forms of bias, the ones that can be hard to pin down but still have a real impact.
It's a good reminder that we need to pay attention to those too, not just the really obvious stuff.
Absolutely. And it shows that we need to keep having these conversations, keep learning, keep trying to do better.
Well said. This has been, well, a lot to take in, to be honest.
It always is with these deep dives. We uncover more than we can answer sometimes, but that's how we learn.
That's true. So, to our listener, we hope this whole thing with Stephanie Thomas with the Maryland Historic Tax Credit Program, it's giving you something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to chew on, you know.
Yeah, because these issues, housing, race, fairness, they're not going away anytime soon. We have to keep talking about them, keep working on them.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So until next time, keep those minds of yours curious and never stop questioning the world around you.